Well, the conflict in eastern DRC has ravaged many cities and towns. At the periphery of this conflict lies cities and towns that are solely depending on the masses of the Doha talks. In this video, I'm going to tell you about Walikale, how Walikale has been a very strategic city in this entire conflict in eastern DRC. Also, I'm going to tell you about who exactly is controlling Walikale right at this moment, as the M23 had taken over Walikale. Then the FARDC came to say that they are in full control of Walikale. So who exactly is controlling Walikale at this moment? Well, this is Bonafide. If you haven't subscribed, kindly subscribe and hit that notification button so that when I release something new on the Eastern DRC crisis, you get notified as soon as possible. Well, mid-March 2025, the M23 surprised the world yet again. They had already taken Goma and Bukavu, but right now the M23 had gone farthest west. They had taken over Walikale, and they posted photos to show the world that the M23 is now in control of Walikale. Well, that shook many, and it also shook the DRC government. Just a few days later, the DRC government said that they were ready to have talks in Doha and that for a show of goodwill, the M23 have to withdraw from Walikale. A few days later, the M23 withdrew from Walikale, and we could see the FARDC troops now taking photos at the center of Walikale to show that they were in charge of Walikale. But that was later disputed by the M23, who say that they were still in control of Walikale, that they had just repositioned their forces outside Walikale, but they could take over Walikale if they wanted again. Well, what is this that was pulling these forces at Walikale, and why was there a huge fight between the FARDC and the M23 at Walikale? Well, Walikale is known globally for its tin ore. In fact, Walikale is the place where a large deposit of tin ore is found. These large deposits of coltan, cassiterite, and gold are critical to the electronics and jewelry industries across the world. And with these riches in minerals, then there are many actors. In fact, Walikale is said to have a competition between armed groups, for example, the Nyatura militias, FDLR, Mai Mai groups, M23, and sometimes even the FARDC takes charge of these minerals to try as much as possible to capitalize on them. Mind you, Walikale is strategically located because it lies between Goma, Masisi, Lubero, and Maniema, and thus a very important transport and supply corridor. Its dense forests and difficult terrain also give a natural cover for rebels and movements and camps. These are the riches that are fueling these rebels. Of course, it is not a coincidence that there are very many rebels in Eastern DRC. These rebels are being funded by the minerals that are existing in Eastern DRC. And because of weak government control at these areas, these groups are able to offer protection to the locals who in turn now support them. And by that support, they enable them to continue with their business of smuggling these minerals from these areas so that they can enrich themselves. So who is controlling this strategic city at the moment, even as the Doha talks continues? According to sources, as at now, the M23 has a shadow control over Walikale. Of course, the Doha talks had a condition that the M23 should completely withdraw from Walikale. The M23 gave that goodwill by repositioning their forces from the center of Walikale into the perimeters of Walikale, and the FARDC also moved their forces closer to Walikale, but not at the center of Walikale. So despite the FARDC being deployed around the town, they refrained from taking it to reignite hostilities amid diplomatic efforts. As at now, the M23 still maintains de facto control of Walikale, especially at the town center and resource roads. The M23 is still maintaining leverage over the mineral-rich areas of Walikale, meaning that despite the fact that the M23 does not have its forces at the town of Walikale, they still manage the activities of the town. They are the ones who are in charge of Walikale as we speak right now. But the overall fate of Walikale solely depends on how the Doha talks will go. If the Doha talks will go to the favor of the FARDC, of course, Walikale will be the first town that the FARDC will take over as they continue to push on to retake Goma and Bukavu. If it will be on the favor of the M23, as right now we are seeing the M23 is asking for self-rule, then Walikale will be controlled by the M23. But Walikale can be a bargaining chip for the M23. They can say that we will leave you to take over Walikale as you allow us to continue with self-rule in Goma and Bukavu. Well, I will continue to keep you informed of the latest of what is happening in Eastern DRC. Keep it Bonafide.